So I'm in Qatar. I'm not meant to be in Qatar. I'm meant to be in Cape Town right now. But I have ended up in a spontaneous little adventure here in Doha. So I was supposed to be flying from Auckland to Doha, Doha to Cape Town. But upon arrival in Doha, I wandered from my one plane to the next gate and they scanned my boarding pass that I had and denied. I was not allowed entry because unfortunately they had overbooked the flight, and sometimes people get chosen at random to get bumped, and I was one of those people. And it's not because I was late, it's just there were people in front of me, there were people behind me. I guess being a solo traveler, that is on a high priority, or rather more likelihood to get bumped, but they've put me in this hotel until the next flight that they've put me on, which is in 12 hours time. So that's nice, but it does mean that I am now spending 12 hours in Doha, a city that I was never planning to be in. I have realized what a beautiful place this is. The flight in, I happened to have the window seat and I just was stunned. I've never really looked at Doha as anything other than a stopover city, and how wrong I am. It is definitely something that I am now considering to be a stay-over place, because the waterfront just looks gorgeous. The buildings are so grand and everything is so modern and just so different to a lot of the Western countries that I am used to. Now, on that is another thing, is that being an Islamic country, I'm aware that there are a lot of cultures and customs that I am not as familiar with. One of them being attire. Something that I am aware of is that although it is not illegal for foreigners to have their hair showing, for example, when they're women, knees are a bit of a no-no for both men and women, because that is not what is as common in the religion here. And so I am feeling a little bit self-conscious because I am wearing what I wore just when I filmed here last, and look, my knees are out, my knobbly little knees. And I feel like if I had planned to be here, I would be a lot more aware of these customs and dress appropriately. But because I am in this weird limbo transition, my checked-in luggage is still at the airport. I just have the things that are on me, which are my cabin luggage, and my dressing gown, actually. My dad made fun of me for bringing a dressing gown onto the flight, and you know what? He can rue his words, because this came in so handy on the flight. I used it as a little blankie and it was so comfy and cozy, and I could put my hands through the sleeves so that it stays on. And on top of that, it made me feel like a little bit of an environmentalist, because I didn't have to rip open the bags that the blankets come in that provided. So then that plastic bag don't go in no rubbish, and the blanket doesn't need to be washed. So travel tip with Clem: bring your own blankie/dressing gown. Anyway, so I thought that I would only be in the airport, and which is why I didn't consider what I was wearing. I was just considering when I'm in Cape Town, it's going to be really, really hot, and I wanted to be nice and cool. So now that I am actually in the city, I'm a lot more conscious that there are a lot of leering looks that have been thrown my way. And at first I was like, I am a ginger. They're probably not used to seeing this color hair on this side of the planet. But call it women's intuition, call it paranoia from solo traveling. I just would feel more comfortable with covered knees, okay? I would like to feel a lot more like I've done my due diligence, which normally I would if I was planning to be here. But I have looked up some basics. Attire is one that I was kind of already aware of, but I also learnt a few things, like pointing is very disrespectful, so open palm is better. And I asked some of the staff members if they could point me into the direction of like a shopping mall so that maybe I could get maybe I could go buy a long dress, for example, and then I could feel a little bit more comfortable just wandering around on my own. Qatar is supposed to be one of the safest places in the world. Of course, crime happens everywhere, but that at least has given me a little bit of ease of mind, peace of mind, that's the word. Words, that's the phrase, there we go. But it still just feels very culturally insensitive of me to just wander out and be a slutty tourist with these knees out. So I went down to lunch, however, and I saw there was another solo traveler, and I decided, you know what, maybe if I'm with someone, that will make me feel a little bit more comfortable as well. So I introduced myself, asked if they were in the same boat with having a connecting flight missed, and if that's why they're put up in this hotel. Sure enough, that is correct. And we got chatting, and they were so lovely. They were so lovely. But talk about small world. So one, they are from England, which is where I'm moving to. Two, they have their... They lived in Cape Town for years and years and years, which is where I'm supposed to be now. And so they were giving me recommendations there. And then three, they're visiting their sons who are in Melbourne, which is where I lived for 10 years. And so we were just giggling over all of these coincidences. But Anne, her name is, she's so, so sweet. And after a few minutes, I kind of got the impression that she wasn't too interested in exploring outside the hotel with me. She is pushing 70, so fair enough. I just thought I'd try my chances. But I was wrong. Afterwards, she asked whereabouts I'd be heading to, and she said, you know what, I'll come along with you. So we went for a little wander, and then when we got to the mall, this is another thing that I was unaware of, and I'm assuming it's a religion thing, so I would have to look into it. But the mall was closed. But it was closed from 1 to 4. So it doesn't feel like it's just a lunch break. That feels like a much larger thing is at play to shut down an entire mall. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll head back afterwards, after that 4 o'clock, and then maybe I'll have more luck with being able to go and buy some attire and then feel more comfortable wandering around some more. Unfortunately, not with my friend. After we went to the waterfront, got this gorgeous view of the city skyline, and there were these old boats that were all made of wood that just looked so gorgeous, and also just admiring some of the architecture in general. I could tell she was just ready to come back to the hotel, so guided her back and popped her. She's actually on the same floor as me as well, which is very cute. Popped her back at her room, gave her a hug goodbye, and just left feeling very warm in the soul, I suppose. It was just such a wonderful interaction. I'm sad I didn't get a photo. I've just realized that. Oh my gosh. I guess it just goes to show one of those like living in the moment situations, but I know that that will still stay with me for a little while. What a beautiful woman. So now I just have to decide what I'm gonna do for the next few hours, and I would be so disappointed if I didn't go out and see more of the city, because it is an opportunity that has just presented itself, and so maybe I just have to go out and be a slutty little tourist. That is another thing that I have learnt is apparently quite blasphemous. The thumbs up is the equivalent of flipping the bird, or like pulling the middle finger. I feel like I'm saying this really weirdly somehow, so I've got to not do that. Another thing that I also wanted to mention before I go and attempt exploring is a lot of these articles that I was reading of do's and don'ts were written by foreigners, and so I think that there's a part of me that has a lot of hesitations, because it feels like a form of cultural appropriation where a foreigner is telling a foreigner what someone else's culture is. So that's why I have been opting to speak to staff members instead. And they said that even in my attire that I should be fine. And I'm sure they're right, but it doesn't mean that I don't feel, for my own moral sake, that I feel inappropriately dressed. But at least I'm having that local knowledge to help me with that peace of mind. So I will at least pop down to the waterfront again because it was really, really pretty, and I want to get a proper photo, even if it's not a selfie, for example. When I was there with Anne, I felt like I was just trying to be present, and I didn't want to say, sorry, Anne, I'm just going to spend a little moment here to take a really nice photo, because she was just such a gorgeous company to keep and had so many stories that I just wanted to make it more about us going for a walk and a talk rather than about taking photos for the gram, but really for myself. So I'm gonna go take at least one photo, and then I can bring these slutty little knees back to the hotel if I don't feel comfortable. But wish me luck. I do hope that I can see some more, and if this is all I get from the vlogging experience of Qatar, then I will update you some more of my next travels. Hopefully I have finally made it to Cape Town and in South Africa, so keep an eye out for that. But I hope you enjoyed this little random update in the meantime. Talk soon, bye!